So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon, or I guess morning here still in the Midwest. This is the How to Connect FF&E Workflows to Revit webinar presented by Layer. My name is Michael Calkins. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at Layer. That is my email address there as well on screen. So definitely feel free to email me after the presentation. We will be following up with everyone. We'll send a link to the recording once that's been processed and made available. But if you have any other questions, feel free to email me there, and I'm happy to help. My main role here as the Customer Success Director is to act as the main point of contact for our customers, our Layer users. And that can range from anything from technical support all the way to workflow and implementation, also doing training, that kind of thing for our new users. So as if you sign up for a trial and you want to kind of understand how will Layer fit for your specific workflows, I'm more than happy to help answer any questions, to give guidance wherever necessary. So definitely feel free to reach out to me at michael@layer.team anytime. So a little history for those of you who don't know about Layer or aren't familiar with Layer and its background. The initial inception, the concept for Layer began at our parent company called BVH Architecture based in Lincoln, Nebraska. They were working on a large 10-year project to do a significant remodel on the Nebraska State Capitol. And basically what they found was that when working on a large project such as that, you begin to gather a lot of data, and they were gathering that data in pretty much the old-fashioned way: measurements jotted down on paper, lots and lots of photographs, as much as 40,000 photographs of all the different elements that had to be cataloged, described, and then tracked through to completion of that remodel project. So what they found was that the data became so large, the data set was so large, it became unmanageable. And from that, the initial version of Layer was created. Basically what they had was a beautiful Revit model that had been created from the existing construction drawings, the old construction drawings, and then a big pile of the data they had collected in the field. But the problem was that those two pieces of information, the perfect Revit model, the actual field data, which of course doesn't match exactly what was on the drawings and in the Revit model, those weren't connected to one another. And when it comes to FF&E workflows, we often find that that's the same situation, that what we have is a beautiful Revit model with all kinds of information. We have walls, doors, windows, storefront, and then we're placing also in it oftentimes placeholder data, placeholder elements to represent what will eventually be the FF&E items of that project. But oftentimes the modeler doesn't know at the point of creating the model, what is the specification for that desk and that chair and the lounge furniture and the TV and all of those elements. So we start placing in those placeholder items. And then in other places, we begin to collect the data about the room, the elements that would be placed within it, the furniture and equipment in particular. And then with that, we start to gather things like cut sheets and specifications. But we still have trouble in many cases combining the Revit side of things and the data side, the collection of that unstructured data, oftentimes referred to. So what we're going to be taking a look at today is how Layer provides for that two-way connection. So the process when working with Layer, which I'm going to demonstrate here, is that we first have to create a project. We're going to create a project in Layer. Obviously, the step before that is you need to sign up and create an account. But once you've done that, you can create a project specific to the project you're working on, and then you can invite team members. And I'm happy to answer questions later about how team members are added either within your company or outside collaborators. Once you have created that project, you're going to need to connect your Revit model. Now, this can happen either early in the process if a model already exists, or you can do this sometime later. There's a little bit of a trick to it, though, if you're going to work with a Revit model at a later time. But ideally, today, what we're going to focus on is attaching that Revit model. And what we need, the reason we're connecting that Revit model is that we're going to pull the information through to layer. We're going to go in and we're going to pull in the rooms, we're going to pull in the furniture, anything else that you want to track that's relevant for you to track, if anything that maybe you have to apply finishes to, not just FF&E, but if you wanted to also begin to fill out your finish schedule for your rooms, you can also do that through layer. We're going to create categories, and then so categories are basically the buckets of information that we use to organize the information in layer. We're going to create these type elements, kind of our repository or our library of our common furniture FF&E items. We're going to create something that we call fields, which is the individual pieces of information assigned to each element. And then we can take a look at some of the other parts. We can take notes and assign tasks as we go along. That's not necessarily a key part of the workflow, but we always want to show that we have this additional functionality. And then we can show how we can run reports. And we're going to go actually then, we'll also show the two-way syncing between layer and Revit. So this is the layer home screen, and I've actually already created a project, but you'll notice there's a new project button here, and we can create new projects from scratch, or we've also provided a few example projects here that you can work with. So if you open the design, create a project from the design template, we call it, it's going to have some pre-populated categories that give you examples of how you might create furniture categories, or you might create room categories. I have already baked the cake here, so I'm going to go in to my awesome office building project. And what I've done, I'll just show real quick in Revit, what I've done is created a very, very simplistic little project so that it's easier to kind of note item to item between Revit and layer. So this is the layer interface. So before we get too deep, let me just kind of walk through the interface, and then we'll dig deeper into each element. Over here on the left side of the screen, you'll see, as I mentioned before, we have the ability to invite additional team members. So this is where that happens. I have my colleague Jeff and Alex are both here in this project. I can invite as many people as I like, however. We then have below there categories. So these are up to you. How you structure your data is completely up to you. Oftentimes though, let's say in this FF&E workflow, what we'll have is something like, we'll have our furniture category. In this case, this furniture is being brought through from Revit, as are my rooms, but the furniture types I've created myself. And we'll talk about these, how we make these, and we can create as many categories as we like. I'll show you how to do that. We also have some other information over here. If we have additional files, maybe a set of floor plans for a project. And we'll take a look at notes and tasks and activity and reports as we go along. And I should also mention, those of you who joined today, you're getting a little sneak peek of the new layer interface, which is about to go public here. We do have, if you would like to go ahead and sign up for it, if you're already using layer, you can actually do that through our beta page, which I'll show at the end of the presentation. Here in the middle of the screen, we have our elements. So when I click on a particular category here on the left side, you'll see then I have these cards that display. These are the individual instances of this case, in this case, of furniture that's being brought through from my Revit model. And then on the right, when I select one of these cards, we get the contextual information. So I've clicked on this chair dash desk, and I then see the individual element fields which are contained within that category. I do want to point out, when you create fields, they are common across all of the elements within a particular category. All right, so I mentioned before that what we do is we create a project, and then we connect the Revit model. And we're going to work from that standpoint, assuming that there is a Revit model already available. Again, if the Revit model becomes available later, there's a certain process you need to follow in order to make that connection back after the fact. But we're going to assume the model's already here. So how did we create that connection? Well, let me switch back over to Revit. So hopefully everyone's familiar with Revit. If you're not, this is another great thing about layer, is that you can still make, once the connection has been made, you can use layer then to populate information back into Revit. You don't even have to have a license of Revit to make that happen. But first, that connection needs to be made. Layer provides an add-in for Revit. So you have to go to layer.team/downloads, and you can download this add-in. And once you install it, you're going to get a separate little add-in tab within Revit. It gets its own ribbon here. And you'll see there are several options here. You do need to create an account. You will have to have a layer account to make this happen. You go ahead and sign into that account, and then you'll see there's a button here to attach your model. So when I click attach model, and again, assuming that you've already created the model, you've already placed some furniture in here, I see here, if I scroll down, I have 8 instances of furniture here. And I am using kind of a mix of furniture. I've used a couple items that were the kind of ubiquitous 30 or 72-inch desk and desk chair that are always in the Revit templates. I've also downloaded a Herman Miller example chair just to kind of show that works as well. But we see I have 8 instances here. This could be, you know, in any given project, it could be hundreds or thousands of items. It will still push those through. You can filter by phases and work sets and design options if you are taking advantage of those functions in your Revit model, but we just have everything in the new construction phase here today. I see here I can pick the project. This one's already been connected to this model, to this project, but I typically would click this little drop down here, and I would be able to select from any of my existing layer projects. Remember, first you have to set up the project on the layer side in order then to receive the Revit model. So I've checked furniture, I've got 8 items, and when I hit attach, it asks me, I'll go ahead and attach and save. And any of these items I have checked, the Revit add-in will push then to layer, and I will then see those categories instantly created. So my doors and my furniture, here we can see with the little Revit R, those are items being pulled through from the model, and they are connected one for one. So as I make changes or I add additional furniture, now that those categories are synced, I will instantly see as I add additional furniture to my Revit model, I will then see those pop up on the layer side. Additionally, let me just talk a little bit more about the Revit add-in. Once you have the add-in, you can actually turn on the layer dashboard. So I'm going to click here and turn on dashboard. That actually opens up a panel within Revit, and it will give you direct access to this information. The other nice thing is that because once we've opened up this panel, we can turn on Live Link. It actually turns on automatically when we first attach. Live Link actually then will let me select items within my model, and it will automatically surface that information in layer within that panel. That will also work in the layer add-in. You'll see here it automatically, as I select individual items, let's go here, I'll click on this desk, we'll see it will show me desk here in the dashboard, but if I have layer open on my other screen, it automatically takes me to that desk as well within layer. So that's a really nice feature, the live link we see here turned on. So you don't have to go hunt through as you add hundreds of pieces of furniture or FF&E items. You don't have to go hunt through the list or use the search to find which desk, and then you say, well, which desk is that? I have to look at the mark. You just select it in the Revit model, and it will automatically display that. So we can take advantage of that either here in Revit or over on the layer side. So that's what we refer to as live link, and that can be turned on and off as needed. If you don't want it automatically displaying everything, you can just turn off live link there. Okay, so let's switch back here to layer. So let's talk about then the additional structure. So we've populated through our individual instances of the furniture in this case. But oftentimes what happens, as I mentioned before, you've placed something in here like this desk chair. Which one did I have right here? I just needed something to represent a desk chair. Well, there's obviously, this is the most simplistic desk chair model available. I don't know eventually what we're going to spec there, how that's going to be done. So how do I do that later on? So in layer, what we do is we create another category. We manually create our own category, which is basically our library of our specifications of our actual FF&E spec. So in this case, we're calling it furniture types. That's just sort of the generic term we use. It can be named anything you like. We have here then within that two elements that I've created already. So let's click on the Leap office chair. Now you'll notice there's no Revit R here. This is actually an element I created to represent the Leap office chair from Steelcase, which I am going to specify for certain offices on my project. Well, what I then do is I create a list of the pieces of information I want to track. These are called the fields. So I've already created a few fields. In this case, we could ignore this top one for the time being. We'll see that I've added a manufacturer field. This is actually just a text field where I could type in here whatever I want, but I know this one has come from Steelcase. We have number fields that we can enter a cost or a quantity there, whatever it might be. So let's just say this chair is extremely affordable and it's cost $5, but I can enter there and you see I can adjust the formatting for my number fields. If I have cut sheets available now, this is where we start to really find, you see the real strength of how we connect information back to Revit. So what I'm gonna do is click here. I have a file field I've created, and I'm going to go find the specifications. So here I have my Leap chair cut sheet that I downloaded from the website, and I'm now uploading that to Layer and connecting it directly to the Leap office chair. So one of the great things, a real powerful aspect of Layer is that we contextualize information, is how we term it. This specific cut sheet is only associated with this specific type of chair. If I click on my Swoop lounge chair, you notice there's nothing there, there's no cut sheet. And then we see here, if I have an image, I've also created a product image file field here. Now, what do I'm looking through now, and you're probably already saying, well, that's obviously a very simplistic example. You might need additional fields for all the data that you track. So what we do is we can click Edit Fields, and we can add in any of these 20 different field types. A lot of them are pretty straightforward, but we do have, it's somewhat new to Layer, we have a barcode scanner option. So if you add a barcode, if you are using barcodes to track, this can be helpful as you move into the installation phase of things. If you are barcoding and tracking items that way, you can actually scan barcodes. We're not going to add it to the types here. That's more of an instance item, so we'll ignore that. But you can add things like a date field, perhaps date ordered, date received, date installed. We can add that in here. We can add in also information about who created, person information, basically, who updated this item. But I'm going to scroll down here. There's a few others that are helpful. We are specifically going to create a select one input. We can also do this as a text input. Basically, what I want to do is create a field for my supplier. Just as an example, I want to be able to denote who is going to supply this chair for this project. Now, if we have a predetermined list, maybe I'm ordering from two separate suppliers and only those two, I can create a select one, and that would actually let me always pick without having to type. That also is nice because it gives me pre-formatted. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's call this, instead of having to type out my supplier every single time, I'm going to type in here. We're going to create Acme Furniture, and we'll create Furniture Depot. And those are the two suppliers. I know those are the only ones I'm going to be working with. So let's go ahead and save that field. And it's here at the bottom. You can reorder these however you like, your fields. And so now we've added in that. I click here in empty space. We see there's a supplier. And because I've already pre-formatted the list, I can just click in that field and it pops up my list, and I get to pick which one of these I'm going to order that specific item from. So we can go through and we can begin to build out this list of common furniture. So we have our lounge chair, we have a Swoop lounge chair, but let me show you then how to create your own new item. We notice that we have a desk in the project that we are also going to need to specify. So I'm going to come down here and click on my create. Make that a little more visible. Down here we have create an element, and it does auto increment here. You can always change these names. So I'm just going to call this executive desk and just hit create element. And when I do that, it will create my new desk element here, and we'll see that because I've already created fields in, sometimes it takes a second here, and then because I've already created fields for my other pieces of furniture in the furniture types category, those fields automatically propagate to all of the new items as I build them out. Now, so one of the things we can do here right now, I will mention one kind of caveat. Where we stand right now, you do have to create these, you can create these through an import from the CSV file, but the fields will have to be created manually. When you go on to start your next project, if any of you are sampling this or testing this out, if you want to start a new project, if you reach out to me, I can have all of this information copied for you. So if you have a furniture catalog or a library that you're going to use on multiple projects, obviously, for large commercial projects or like hospitality, that's probably a common situation where you're going to pull from a predetermined list and use it on multiple projects for franchises, things like that. So we can copy that over. We are working towards eventually providing you the ability to create your own templates and your own libraries here. But where we stand right now, we're happy to help out with that. We can provide you on the back end. We can make those copies for you. Okay, so I've added an additional item here, and of course we'll just start to go through and build out as necessary each of the individual items. We can add fields as we go, and they will propagate across all of those elements. So let's then keep moving here on this on the workflow. So we've created our types, and then we've imported our Revit information. In this case, the furniture. But I could have also pulled through any Revit category can get pulled through. So let's take a look at what's happening then here on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my desk chair, my very simple desk chair. And I take a look at it and I see, well, I can see that it's in waiting room 101. And I can say then, okay, well, because it's in waiting room, it's a desk chair, I know that we're specifying I know what we're going to specify. We're going to specify that Leap office chair. So how do I make that connection? Because this is a specific instance here of a desk chair, and I want to say, well, that it has a specific type associated with it. So what I've done is created what's called a related element field. And how I did that was, I'll just show real quick. I go to create my fields, and one of the options I have here is called related element. What that lets me do is connect information saved in a different category, in this case, the category called furniture types. I can now connect that to this category called furniture. So I can say desk chair is of furniture type Leap office chair. So I check that item there, and now I've made that connection. What's great then is I can pull through. Once I've made this connection, I can create what's called a lookup field. So I say, well, I would like to be able to not only show the furniture type, the Leap office chair, but I want to know who manufactures that, and I want to see, in this case, this is the Revit mark that's being pulled through. It hasn't been populated yet in Revit. So once I do that, it will pull through that data. So the lookup field shows me that is manufactured by Steelcase, but let me go ahead and edit fields and add another field. I'm going to say, well, you know what? I don't want to have to click through to the Leap office chair to view the cut sheet. So what I'm going to say is, let's create a cut sheet lookup field. I'll say it's going to pull that from the type field, the furniture type field, and then I'm going to click here and say, show me the cut sheets. And when I save that field, I'll see that it then gets displayed as well. So I could, if I wanted to, say, well, it's a desk chair. What is it? Well, let me click on Leap office chair, and there's the cut sheet. But I didn't want to have to do that. I just want to be able to say, well, it's the chair, there's my cut sheet. And when I click on that, because it's an uploaded file, I can now view my cut sheet right here in Layer. I don't have to download it and open it in some other application. I can view it right here. I could, if I wanted to, even mark up. So if I needed to call out some specific aspect of that, I can here make markups, I can make notes, I can put my own stamp basically on there if I wanted to. Okay, now I'm going to pause here within Layer just to show, now that we've made these connections, if I switch back over to Revit, we'll see again, if I pick that item, those fields all display. Now I see, when I pick this in Revit, I can see somebody has specified that this is furniture type Leap office chairs. It's made by Steelcase. It hasn't yet been marked in Revit. I would have to do that over here in my properties. And then I can also see the cut sheet. Now this is something that's been somewhat difficult to do in Revit, to surface something like your cut sheet. So I can click on that, and I will admit that it's a little bit small, but you could undock this onto another screen and you could show this at full size. But there is my cut sheet, and I've accessed it right through Revit. If I come over here and I pick one of these desks, I'll see, because I have Live Link turned on, it shows it here, and I see, oh, nobody's actually connected it. So I'm gonna say, well, now I know that's actually the executive desk. The manufacturer hasn't been populated yet, so we would need to do that. And again, the cut sheet hasn't been populated, but if it was, it would be right there available to me as well. Now I want to remember or highlight again back here in Layer, I don't have to have Revit. Once this connection has been made, anybody, I could invite any of you, even if you don't have Revit, I can invite you to this project, and you could go through and I'd say, well, okay, you're my furniture specifier. You have now, you see the room, you have your spec for the pieces of furniture that go in each room and each type. Maybe you have a department assigned to each room that you'd like to show, so you understand, you can make that connection. All that stuff can be surfaced. All Revit parameters can be surfaced here within Layer. One other thing I want to point about the interface here real quick is that we now have the ability in the new interface, the new Layer interface, to not only show information by clicking on a particular element and then listing it here on the side view. We can now also expose any parameters that we would like of any field we would like on the card itself. So in this case, what I've done is shown the type and the room right here in the card. So now I can see, without having to click on each item, I can come here and see I've got a flat screen, a 32-inch flat screen. It's in waiting area number 1, and I can see, I can also see that nobody has assigned a specific furniture type to it yet. We don't have, maybe don't have the specification, or I just need to go in and do that work. I can see here nobody's assigned a type here to any of these. So I can then click on this desk and say, oh, okay, I need to take care of that one. That is the executive desk. There we go. And we see it now displays on that card. So that's a really nice feature that we've been able to provide. I did see a question come up from David about if there is a list view available. I'll say at this time, we do not have a list view. We do have a card view. It's on the roadmap, absolutely. I believe what David's asking is if we can, instead of showing these cards like this, if we can have more of like a table view where we have a column for each of the names and then the column showing all the fields. And we are working towards that. That is a high priority for us to show these other views in that way, or show these elements in these other view types. As I mentioned, we've created the project, we've attached that model and created categories, and we've created the type. So that's our catalog of information, and then we've created the fields. So we can also, I'll show you, we can take notes and assign tasks and then run reports within Layer. So let's have a look at that. When I select one of these items, we'll see by default in the right-hand view, what we see are the fields attributed to that category, but you'll see we have additional contextual items like files here. So this particular item, this chair, doesn't have a file associated with it. We have here, what we've assigned is we've added actually a cut sheet that's being pulled through from the type, so this is a common element. So there's no file associated with this specific instance of furniture or any of these. And often that would probably be the case. Your instances don't necessarily have any files that are unique to that specific instance. But if you had a file, or let's say you wanted to take a photo, one place you might actually use this, perhaps you want to take a photo of the installed item, what you could do is click on, if you're on the phone app, you could click this little plus sign to add a file. On my computer, I can only either create what we call a layer document, or we can upload a file. So if I have a photo of that installed, I could upload it. But again, on the phone app, so we do have an app for iPhone and Android, or for iPad, you would be able to take a photo of that. One of the options right here would be to use your camera and take a photo, and it would actually attach it as a file to that specific instance of the furniture. You can also create notes. So let me just yet to be ordered. And when we submit this note, this is basically kind of like a chat log regarding this specific instance of furniture. So this is just one more method that you can actually begin to communicate about a given item. We can also assign tasks now. So now, because of here, you notice you can actually assign. So I can say, actually, I'm just going to say, please order. And when I submit that task, I can then select it, select my task, and you'll see then it gives me options. Here I can assign a due date to that. So I can say, we're in a hurry, Jeff, please order this desk tomorrow. And I can assign it. I can then say, this is actually assigned to Jeff. And what will happen is that if he has notifications turned on, Jeff will have seen a little pop-up on his screen. He should get one on his phone, and it will actually alert him that a task has been assigned to him, and he can click on it and it will show him. But when he looks at the task, what's nice is it's tagged directly to this element, desk chair. It's not some random item that then Jeff has to reach out and say, order what? I don't understand what you asked me to do. And so once Jeff logs in, he takes care of the item, or maybe he added to add a subtask, and like subtask of contact supplier. So maybe he's gone through and he says, okay, well, I've actually done that. So he can check that off. Maybe I'm not allowed because actually it's Jeff's task to do. But once he's then completed that task, he can actually click this little button right here to complete the task. It closes that task out, and then I could show it as a completed task here. Lastly, the other contextual item that we can show here is the activity log. So I see here, I can go back and view that I, in fact, was the one that changed the field type to chair desk, and I can see that change here. What's great about this is if a mistake is made somewhere along the line, you can undo that change. You can revert it back to whatever state it was in at that point. It takes a few seconds for that change to propagate back through, but we'll see now it's moved that says, well, Michael undid leap off his chair, and it adds that as the most current. What did it actually undo? Oh, I guess I maybe made a change the other direction. So did it do what I thought I did? Yeah, basically I would need to find the one. Maybe I'll go back to the very beginning and see if I can revert that. It should undo that change for me. All that contextual information is stored in there. This is so as you begin to learn, you learn to navigate. All that information will be available to you there. I do also want to point out, as you start to build up large quantities of information, you can search for individual items here. You could kind of use this search almost as a filter. So I want to say I'm only searching for my, I only want to view my desk items right now. So I can use that as a filter, but then I can additionally click this funnel icon and filter by the various fields. So I can say, well, I want to only show the furniture which is contained in the Office 103. I only want to show the desks. Or let's see, waiting area, I believe has one. Well, it looks like I have desk chair and the desk. So now I've filtered down, so I'm only viewing those items. I can also choose how those sort. Typically, you're going to sort by name, or perhaps by a mark or something like that. If you wanted to sort like doors, here I've shown right now by default, they're just showing in the order they were created, but now I can say, let's actually sort by the name or by ascending, and then I now have those, because I'm actually showing the mark of each door as part of the name, I can then sort according to that property. Okay, let's go back to furniture. I'll also show this little button here. This is how you control which fields then display on the cards for each element as well. All right, so let's lastly then take a look over here on the left at the a couple other options. We do have a full project activity log. When I select this item, this will show you all of the changes that have been made throughout the project, throughout the history of this project. And we also have the ability then to generate reports. I forgot to pre-bake a report. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So when I select reports, what I can do is click here on the plus sign and give this a name. So maybe what I'm going to do is actually report my furniture. So when I select that, it does automatically adjust the name. I can create a furniture report. You can override this if you like. And then we can also select which elements get exported. I'm going to export all or report on all the elements and all the fields within it. And then I can choose here at the bottom which format I want to export the report in. So we do have several options now. If you've looked at this in the past, we only had the ability to do CSV reports, which obviously could then be opened in Excel. We now provide you the ability to export directly to the XLSX format, which is very nice. And we can also export a PDF. So perhaps what you wanted to do, maybe you're not exporting the furniture, you're going to run a report displaying all the furniture items within it. So you have the ability to kind of slice and dice information however you like. If you want to start from the room level and display all the furniture, all the fields within it, you can do that. You can also go here to furniture, and one of the fields for furniture is room. So let's go ahead and generate that report. Takes a few seconds actually to generate the report. The report gets generated in layer and it gets stored in layer, and then you can download it. So the report will remain there as part of your project. If you do want to use it, then you can click the download and we'll then see that it's actually created this PDF for me. And we'll see here, I have a desk, chair, it's in waiting area 101. I have my desk. This one is in office 104. It is of type executive. We can see here, then this is the list of all of my furniture and the associated fields along with it. Let's see if I have, yeah, okay. So let's switch back to layer here. Just keep an eye on the questions. So we are wrapping up the basic workflow. So definitely, if you have any questions, feel free to type those in. We're happy to answer those as we go again, or I'll spend a few minutes here at the end answering questions. A couple of things I want to highlight then about making your connection. So if you want to try this out and you want to connect your Revit model, one of the great things we allow for then is once the Revit connection has been made, we give you the ability to then make assignments and make choices about how these elements are going to be displayed in layer. So because we can show the various parameters being pulled through from layer, we can then say, use the information, those parameters, to name the files or the elements in layer. So in this case, for my doors, I said, well, show me the mark information and then followed by the type. You can also display from and to room information here. So for like the instance of doors, that's very helpful. You could show the room it's coming from. I'm not sure why the, oh, there it is. There's to room. So if you want to display those, you can also then create parameter rules, parameter sync rules. So let's show how that works. I mentioned earlier, it is possible to fill out and to assign information in layer and have it port back or connect back to Revit. Well, the way that is accomplished is by creating a parameter rule. Typically what you would be able to do is create a sync rule. So let's go, let me just show you a new one of them that we have in another project. Here, in the case of Windows, what we've created is a sync rule that says when the window status field is updated in layer, on the Revit side of things, it should update the parameter called comments. Let's see if we have any others. Let's take a look at doors. Do we have doors? Or yeah, let's take a look at rooms. I believe we have some rules here in as well for our room. So I can show here, again, if you're extended beyond just the FF&E workflow, but maybe you're going into the full finished specification workflow, we have created a rule here that says when the field called floor material in our room element is updated back in Revit, when we sync those parameters, we should update the item called flooring condition. Same with wall material. We can update the field called wall material and it will update the parameter called wall finish in Revit. So if a change were to be made in layer, that change doesn't propagate through automatically back into Revit. What we would need to do is come back here to layer, and then we see there's this button here that says sync parameters. And what that will do is go check the layer project for changes. Let me see if I can open up a different file that I have. Oops. Not new, I wanted to open. And we'll see here, if I were to make a change, let's say to my lounge room, let's say I come in here and I updated the floor material to carpet. Once it's had a chance to propagate that information through to the cloud, I will then see I can come in, and you notice I did that in layer. I didn't do it here in Revit. And that could have been done in the layer interface as well, not even using the layer dashboard. When I sync parameters, I'll see that the change has been detected. I can see that two changes were made. The floor finish and flooring condition fields were changed to carpet. Actually, I think those are both mapped through. So if I decide to accept those changes, the layer add-in for Revit will pull those changes through and then update the property for that specific room. So if I were to go to like my room finish schedule, I would see all of those changes would be propagated through automatically. Okay, so again, that's that layer add-in. That you do have to connect the Revit project. You do have to have Revit, obviously, to make that happen. But once that change has been, that connection has been made, you can invite anybody you like into the layer project and tell them, go through, please fill out that information. This is also great if you're doing a site assessment. You have a Revit model, but you don't know what the actual conditions are of the building. Once you've connected your Revit model, you can then go through and say, okay, where is, I'm going to go into the entryway. I'm going to document the wall finish, the floor finish, and the ceiling finish in layer, and then create that parameter map, the sync parameter map, and then sync parameters back in Revit and pull that data through automatically. Okay, so that is the overall workflow. Let me switch back here. That's not what I wanted. Let me switch back to the slides. So again, that's the overall workflow. We saw that we can run reports then from layer, so you don't have to go run necessarily like a finished schedule or use other applications to pull that, to aggregate all that data. We now have aggregated that data, cut sheets and those sorts of things right here in layer, and then we ran reports to export those. So I do want to mention we do have one more webinar coming up next week, specifically focusing on medical equipment planning. It's going to be a very similar workflow. We're going to use a few more examples of more medical related equipment types.